Hey, Decathlon Gamer, welcome back to F1 Manager. This is episode 19. We are about to enter the Japanese Grand Prix. It's a back-to-back, so we only have that few days in between. Hopefully it's enough to at least get that new rear wing on one of the cars. In the meantime, we do have some development points to spend. First, on our technical chief, you can see actually he's very, very balanced, though, not great. 74 overall rating. But I've already discovered and knew from paying close attention to the development of the new cars heading into this year, reading up a lot about it, that the underfloor is by far the most impactful of the six upgrades that are available to us. It has the biggest difference. Now, that's not to say that the others aren't important, but the single one that makes the biggest difference is the underfloor. So that is where I'm going to put a lot of these kind of development points, especially on guys that are balanced, such as this. So we'll bring him up to a 75 here, and that's still only equal now on highest. So it's not like it's taking off beyond the others. And with that, this is what our staff looks like now. He is our lowest. So if we are to make another upgrade, it would probably be there because, two reasons. One, race engineers are going to impact certain things like getting our setup. Well, we're getting 14, 15 points on that bonus every race as is. Do I want to get better? Do I want it to be easier? Yeah, sure. Do we need to spend a bunch of money on that? No, there's far more important things than getting that last bonus point for our drivers. But the head of aerodynamics, as low as it was, that was essential. Technical chief also greatly impacting what happens with the car. So if we are going to be spending money a second time, and probably just the second of two times, it's going to be upgrading there so that we have stronger group here and there. It's going to probably be an expensive upgrade, but why not? Meanwhile, the pit crew is very mediocre, but if they are going to be poor in one area, I'm glad that it's the wing adjustment because that is the least frequent. Wing replacement is already costing you a lot of time. If it's going to cost you additional time because they don't do it terribly well, so be it. You do that, 2 races, 3 races out of the year. The rest of the year, it completely has no impact. So I'd rather have our tire changes, rear jacks, car release all be quite a bit higher. But here's the thing about the training of these. When it's balanced, you improve all 4. When you focus on one, it decreases the other 3 because they're not training it. So the deterioration is not good. So overall, the way to honestly get better is balanced. And we focused on tire changes for a while, which put it out top, made it our best. It was not initially our best, but it was at the cost of the others. So you need to spend, honestly, 3/4 of every season on balanced, and then you can slowly, specialize and focus on one for part of the year. Otherwise, you're just going to see your team a bit of a mess in coming seasons. And by the way, it reduces every year. So they regulation changes, it says, they get rusty, replacing crew members year by year. So I like that system, right? Because it's constantly in flux. You build up over the course of a season, and then it's going to drop down again. And then you're going to build up over the course of the season. Our problem is, does that mean we're ever going to catch up to the likes of a Red Bull pit crew? Which, by the way, just a couple years ago, I don't know, 2, 3, maybe 4 years ago now, I don't think it was even that long, but just a couple years back, it was Williams and Red Bull that had the 2 quickest. But because Williams was at the back of the grid, it was their pat on the back morale boost that they had a good, strong pit crew. It's still not bad, but it's not what it once was. And here in game, it doesn't seem to reflect that Williams has a pretty strong pit crew. Like I said, it's not what it was, but it shouldn't be this bad. But hey, they've done so well with other ratings. We can ignore that one fault, right? We can also ignore the fact that the Williams is kind of the opposite of what we have here. Here we have a very draggy car. In real life, it's the opposite. It's the aero that's their real problem, and it doesn't have much drag, and that's why they did well in Spa. That's why they did well in Monza. That and the fact that somebody other than Latifi was driving one of the cars, but that's normal. Albon would have been in the points too. Pourchaire has picked up another development point, so we're going to continue to bring those reactions up to par with his other pace attributes, and then accuracy needs to come along as well at some point, because that gives you the consistency in your lap time. But in general, if you're slow, you're slow. Even if you're not consistent, you'll just be even slower. So that's why pace comes first. Now, as for the decision on Albon, I am recording this episode at the same time that the previous episode, where I'm asking you about whether to replace Albon or keep him, and whether to replace him with Ocon or Doohan. So the three choices, right? Ocon, Albon, Doohan. That episode has just gone live in the last hour and a half or so. So I'm waiting on a little feedback to see where we're at with that. Hopefully you have contributed and left some comments. It might be too late for this episode, but not necessarily. So if you want to comment on that one, do so. I think by our next episode, I'm going to be trying to offer a contract to one of those three guys. And I'm also planning on filming that one here as soon as I'm done filming this one. So I will just check in on where we're at in the comments section. And if you leave it up to me, then I'll have to make my own best informed decision on which direction I want to go with that one. But yeah, that's where we're at on that situation at the moment. And this week, the only upgrade we are going to be making is the final upgrade to the hospitality area. So this is going to finish off the operations facilities in all categories except the weather center. I should probably get that to level 3 here at some stage in the near future, or at least heading into next season, as it can certainly help us, as our weather reports have been not great. The better they are, the more informed it is, the more likely we are to benefit from that information and be able to do something that will help us gain some positions down the road, possibly some points, right? All of this work we've done, by the way, in these facilities this year, and I think I might have brought this up at some point in some manner, but here's my realistic view on what's going to happen. The team attractiveness profile of Williams, all of these upgrades have risen that profile significantly. So it's going to do a couple things. One, it allows us to go get better staff, better drivers, move up the grid, get after those kind of guys. But two, and this being the important one right now, is that during this off season, we're going to be doing sponsor deals. And the team attractiveness was very low. And we still had a lot of money coming in there. With a significantly higher team attractiveness profile, I do believe that means we're going to be raking in so much more money next year, which is not only going to pay for all these upgrades that we've been making this year, but it's going to fund those much, much more expensive upgrades in the area that's going to allow us to develop the car much more rapidly and keep the team funded, throughout the year. Our budget was, I believe, 9th out of the 10, or 8th out of the 10. I'll have to go check the finances on that one, but it's definitely at the bottom end of the grid. Now, we're not going to collect a lot of prize money for finishing 9th place in the constructors this year, but that's actually a relatively small percentage of the overall money that you bring in as a team. And that is why we are pouring so much money into these facilities. You can see now we have 26 out of 30 upgrades in the operations facilities. We're at 10 of 15 in the staff, and we're still just getting started. But it's this car development area that is really expensive. Before getting into the race weekend, our next project is done. This time it's research on the chassis. So we have our second research project for next year's car complete. This is the team that's going to continually be rolling over those projects. So we will work on another department now that I have the rear wing done. Maybe I want to make our next, knowing that that is a bit of a concern for us. That's one area to consider. And here are the gains expected from our new rear wing project. We're going to focus mostly on drag reduction as well as the DRS benefit from it, and not necessarily the downforce to the car, as this is mostly about improving top speed, which is, again, that huge concern. So we're trying to get that in a better state for next year. And even if we did focus on it, it's not going to have a huge benefit for us in terms of cornering anyway. Therefore, the overall top speed, I think, matters so much more. And this is the expected gains that we're looking at, and it's mostly coming down to top speed, be it a big thing, and a little more acceleration, which is certainly good. It'll be the final project for this period. Our other project ends right at the transition point to a new development period, and then this one will carry over into the end, into that next period. Suzuka is a track that is going to suit us fairly well, but not perfectly. That there are two lengthy straights. For that, we're not going to be great. There's definitely some even medium length straight sections where our lack of general pace will hurt us. However, beyond that, it's mostly fast sweeping turns. And for that is our strength right now. That should have us a lot more competitive than we generally are. So I'm looking forward to that opportunity. We only have there's one medium speed corner, and there's two slow speed sections with the final chicane, and oh gosh, I've forgotten the name. It's been a little while. It's something about the degree. It's like 187 or something like that. The tight hairpin there. We should be good through Spoon, which will help make up for that speed difference down the back, and certainly through the S curves. We'll be good through there. Now, with only one DRS zone, it makes less of an impact here, but for us, it could create an opportunity because that DRS is down that one straight that leads into our best section. So it could get us pretty close on cars, which means, honestly, passing for us is going to have to happen, somewhere around turn 7, turn 8, prior to turn 9, really. And we'll see if we can make passes through there or not. Coming off Spoon, that could be another area, but then we go straight in, into the straight. But a straight that does not have DRS on it, so maybe we can make some passes there as well, coming out of 14.
Konnichiwa from the Suzuka circuit in Japan. This unique track is a favorite home for motorsports, and it welcomes us back this weekend. Get ready for exhilaration and speed with the Japanese Grand Prix. Drivers will battle it out this weekend on the snaking turns of Suzuka, the only figure-of-8 track in Formula One. High-speed downforce will be the name of the game here, if teams want to secure a place on that podium. This is it. We're down to the last few races of the season, and it's time for that final push. Who will be crowned champion at the end of it all? We'll find out soon enough. What will happen this weekend? Only time will tell.
Rain expected on Saturday, moderate levels. So we'll see how the weekend turns out. We might be able to save some tires for that one. But let's go ahead and get to that race weekend. I do think we're going to be much more competitive than we've been in the last couple of races based on the track profile.
Clearly something went
very
wrong there.
FP1, first session out, just a few laps in, Albin has put the car into the wall.
That's going to be a big blow to the team. Will they be able to recover?
R187, something
We'll
like that.
see.
R190. It's not a great outcome for him. We are going to want to pit in and replace that wing. It's just minor damage though, so I don't know, I might keep him out there and finish the run. I don't know what happened to my reserve front wings. I had just checked on them a week ago, and was our race that bad? I know we did crash out one driver in Singapore, but we had reserves. We had about 4 of them. We somehow went through all of them last weekend. And that minor front damage that we took when Albin hit the wall. Fortunately, he was allowed to continue on and finished FP1, but we have 0 front wings left. So that damaged front wing isn't even available anymore. So right now, Albin is down to the original preseason front wing right now as the one on the car. So we are going to emergency manufacture 3 front wings. So we have a couple reserves for the rest of the weekend and one that we can put back on Albin's car. It does come at a hefty cost, and that's really unfortunate that that's happened. It's my bad for not checking in our in-between week, but I did just check before that last race. We had plenty, so apparently that last race weekend was that bad, but I only remember having damage to a wing a single time. So with the damage that Albin was carrying through most of FP1, I couldn't get much of an assessment on the rear wing and what type of difference it might have been making. We know that Albin is probably 1/10 of a second faster than Pourchaire generally, but then throughout that session they were pretty balanced, and I know that some of that was coming down to that damaged rear wing. So checking in on them right now, what we're seeing here in the early laps as their times adjust is about 3/10 of a second difference between them. So if there's 3/10 of a second difference, and previously they had 1 to 1.5 tenths, then we're looking at maybe 1/4 of a second in improvement, at least on this track, per lap. I would venture to say it's maybe not that high, maybe not 2.5, maybe it's more like 2/10 of a second. The lap is a little bit longer here, and time gaps are spread a little bit further as a result. I'd say the more likely is that it's maybe 1/10.5 improvement for us, which again is not a lot. It's not a lot when we are still close to half a second off of the midfield. But I do think today, we're looking at slightly closer than that. Magnussen is just over 3/10 of a second ahead of us, and usually in race conditions, we're quite a bit closer than we are in practice. We tend to run heavy fuel load compared to everybody else. I never push. I don't run qualifying sims. And so, our gap, if we're ahead of Aston Martin, generally race comes, we're well ahead of Aston Martin. If we are half a second behind the cars in front of us, all of a sudden we're just about keeping up with them throughout a race because we're good on tires and we push, and tactically we do what we do. We get the DRS, whatever the case may be, but exactly 3/10 of a second between them right now, like I said. So I think we're seeing maybe 1/10.5 in terms of gain with the new rear wing. At least that's my assumption at this point. On this track, we do have a couple of somewhat lengthy straightaways.
Car balance feedback when capacity.
Now, setup was very similar on our last run. On this run, the gap has gone even bigger. It's gone from 3/10 to 4/10 as they continue to just shave off small amounts of time consistently. Now, Albin is about 4/10 faster, so does that mean his setup is that much closer, or is the rear wing that much better? Well, I'm guessing it's probably the earlier one on that we are benefiting from a setup gain at the moment, I would think. And Pourchaire has put the car into the
Let's
wall
take a
in
look
the
at the
exact
replay.
same place that
Now
Albon
we
did,
see the Williams here.
locking up there.
Oh dear, dear, dear.
That's our weak
far
spot
wider
for
than they
this
would have
car,
wanted.
and it's cost us once again. So we only
The
have those
team are
2 reserve
really
wings, and
disappointed
we're
with
already
that.
going to eat
Let's
into
hope it
one of
doesn't
them.
set them back too badly.
Let's see if he can at least finish the session. There's only a few minutes left without having to
They've
go
locked up and
change
gone
that wing.
straight on.
Day 2, FP3, we do have now 3 of the new rear wings in the warehouse, as the manufacturing of them have been fairly quick. So we're going to go ahead and get it on Pourchaire's car as well. First 2 laps in the same car, in the same setup here, have now 3 laps have been almost identical each lap between the 2 of them. They are pacing each other really, really well at the moment. So yes, the new rear wing is definitely looking like an improvement of, at least on this track, a good 0.3 of a second. Before entering qualifying, we are going to take a little bit of a risk with both cars. Our highest setup confidence that we had with Pourchaire was 94, 93 for Albon, and these two have been neck and neck. The next adjustments we had made with both of them brought it down ever so slightly. We dropped to like 91 and 91, or 92, something like that. It was just a marginal drop, but it also identified where we went the wrong way, as it kind of gave us that last setup lock-in. So making those adjustments to the other direction should not only get us beyond the low 90s that we had on the last setup, but it should get us beyond what we had on that previous one, get us into that 95% plus. But we ran out of time. Sessions ended. For one thing, both drivers had crashed at some point during practice, and two, just setup is slower for our team to gain with the engineers that we have. As a result, I've looked in at the knowledge we have on the current setup so far. A couple elements for both drivers have been identified, and they're optimal. So it looks like we might have gotten it right this time. We might have it, in that 97, 98, 99% range. Hopefully we do. We're taking our chance that we have nailed that, because we enter Parc Fermé with this one. And right as we are starting the session, just the first few seconds of the session right now, we're going to be the first 2 cars out on track. We are going to go get those banker laps. And if you look at the weather report, it's cloudy now, but we are expected a very high chance of rain in just 4 minutes. We will get our lap run in that time. How many other teams will get theirs in? I'm guessing not that many. This could lead to a Q1 pass and get into Q2 this way. The Alfa Romeo is also out. Leclerc out. Schumacher out. Gasly comes out. Nobody is in our way. So we've got a nice clean run for both cars. So it's going to be a good time. And here comes the rain. It has hit. So this is going to start impacting the times. You see, we're ahead of both Alfa Romeos.
So it's raining. Just
now, Bottas looks like he lost some time. Guan Yu Zhou is somebody that at the end of FP3, we were faster than. I don't think his time was impeded. I think we honestly were faster than him. I think somebody impeded Bottas, slowing him down a little bit. Leclerc has gotten a clean run in, but everybody else is going to be now losing time, as the track is already leaving dry conditions.
Seems to be quite slippery.
And entering intermediate conditions. So I think we are going to get out of Q1 here based on this, unless the track dries very quickly. It looks like the rain could stop pretty soon, but how much will there be on the track? How damp will it remain? Track has maxed out at just a shade under 3 millimeters, but we are in those top positions right now. Schumacher finished his lap only losing a marginal amount of time, and you're seeing now a lot of guys running on intermediates, and they have
weather update.
Track starting to dry now.
Rain around the track.
Rain has stopped, but there's only 4 minutes left in the session. I don't think it's going to dry enough. we're not even going to bother going back out. I mean, you can see just how bad the times are. These guys ran on dry tires with horrible lap times. At least these guys ran on intermediates, hence their time. But you would think everybody's going to be out on intermediates here fairly soon. Yeah, there you go. Dry tires, intermediates, just the top 6 with the one that was impeded still being P6. Track drying, but not fast enough. Let's speed things up. I think we are going to be out of Q1 here. Everybody's out on the intermediates, which means their times are not going to be great. Everybody's running that final lap. Perez somehow puts in a time faster than what we had, but he's the only one who really put in a significant time there, and that is P3 and P4 in Q1. Wow, that's awesome. Okay, a lot of penalties in the grid now. That the number went up a lot from what we had. I mean, that's 6 drivers now. It was at 4, but we've already, gained at least 5 positions with escaping Q1, plus all of those penalties, and only one of the drivers so far behind us is amongst those that have picked up penalties. We could be starting in the top 10 in this race. And the 2 Aston Martins right at the back of the grid also. So for that part, things are looking really, really good for today. All right, we have locked in our setups. Porsche, we did get it right, 96%. Albin, right back at 93. So he's right back at his highest level that he had. Looks like one of the elements, there was 3 elements that we changed. Looks like we probably got 2 of them right, and the third one went the wrong direction, and so that's where we're at. 93%. He won't get the full bonus, but that's okay. Like I said earlier in the episode, I'd rather see the car rapidly develop than worry about getting that one more bonus attribute for Albin each race by getting that car set up over 95. I'd rather have that be a challenge. I'd rather have to work at that. Does make it interesting, does make it fun, as opposed to it being easy. If we had one of those top 3 teams, we would be nailing down that confidence every race because they get feedback so much faster. Far fewer laps have to be run to get that information, so it's really easy to get a max setup. For us, it's fine. It's totally fine that we have to work at it. Dry, totally dry for the start of Q2. Rain also on the way early on. This could benefit us yet again. So we're going to head out almost immediately, just a few seconds in between the 2 drivers. And then we'll get our banker lap in. And rain coming very early on. Ricardo should be fine. Hamilton should be fine. But will the other 6 get out in time? Leclerc in the way. Oh my goodness, he's going to mess up both of ours. Looks like Albin got by pretty cleanly, but Porsche? No, you know what? They actually put in decent times. And there's that rainfall. So there's your 4 drivers that have managed to get a clean lap in. We do have a Haas and a Ferrari that look to be... Are they on an out lap or are they end of their flying lap? We'll see if they put in a time here in a moment. Sector 2, yellow flag. That is a Red Bull who has spun. Bottas trying to come through now. Leclerc has completed his lap, but not Schumacher. Schumacher is just starting his lap, so his time's going to be terrible. Is Bottas finishing his lap? No. Bottas is starting his flying lap as well. Perez spun, so Magnussen, the only other one who is coming along that may be finishing up a flying lap with a still semi-competitive time, but I doubt it. I mean, the track is so wet at this point, and that means I think we're looking at, once again, likely escaping now Q2 into Q3 because we got out there early. This time it's Tsunoda, Guan Yu Zhou, Magnussen, Schumacher, Perez. Perez in the Red Bull in 15th. Sainz, by the way, I wasn't paying much attention other than the Aston Martins. Sainz also starting from P16. Neither one carrying penalties either. So more cars going further back. That means with 3 penalties for, we don't know how big the penalties are, but Verstappen, Bottas, Gasly are all going to be going backwards. So not only are we going to start in the top 10, but we're looking at starting in the top 7. We're going to have at least one car on the 3rd row of the grid. So Ricardo has crashed, plus 3 drivers that have penalties means we're going to start theoretically in P5, P6. Running another lap is meaningless. It's just going to use another set of tires. And we're not faster than the cars in this session. And this time it's looking like it's going to stay dry enough so that everybody's going to get at least one clean lap in and we'll be many tenths of a second ahead of us. So no matter what we do, we're not going to shave off enough time. The only thing that could possibly happen is Pourchaire moving ahead of Albon, realistically. So giving him another shot at that would be, nice for him. But if you're smart as a boss, you're telling them, hey, guys, you're going to get one lap. You're going to get one chance at this. Do your best. They've done their one lap. They've done their best. And that's going to lock them in. With Ricardo crashed out, he's going to start, at least qualifying-wise, P10. So he'll be behind us. So, wow. Right now, Verstappen is on pole by nearly a second. That is the pace advantage of the Red Bull here. Leclerc just had a Russell, and that looks like that could still be up for debate. Hamilton hasn't even completed his first time yet, and it's good enough to go P2, just 6/10 behind, much closer to Verstappen than the others, but still nowhere near the pace of the Red Bull. It looks like we've got a battle for second, third, fourth, and then Bottas could be challenged by Gasly and Alonso behind, but otherwise, that's your grid. And some of those guys, 3 of those guys, are carrying penalties. I know Bottas and Verstappen were 2 of them. Okay, so it was Gasly, but Bottas, Gasly, and Verstappen all carrying penalties in this race. So that means Leclerc is going to bump up to pole with Hamilton, Russell, and Alonso on your first 2 rows. And then if Verstappen moves back far enough anyway, that's going to be us, both cars, on the 3rd row of the grid. Wow. Absolute just madness. Highest ever grid positions coming up in a car that is definitely the most competitive it's been at any track all season, or at least close to the most competitive it's been at any track all season. I think we should be aiming for points today, but we're going to have eyes on the back of our heads as we're going to have a lot of faster cars putting us under pressure, and I think we're going to have a very, very hard time trying to keep up with, say, Alonso. I think Alonso looks like that car that we're going to try to keep up with, and then, at some point maybe it's Ricardo or Tsunoda that get past us, and when they do, I think we're going to try to, keep pace with them. And that's that target. Now, of course, we only have, one DRS zone, but here's the thing. There's only one DRS zone, so it's going to be harder for guys to pass us, and it's a fairly short straightaway, that one. And we're going to have such a good exit out of Spoon. I guess here's the thing. You come out of Spoon, and then you have this long straightaway. And they're going to... Yes, we're going to have a great exit from Spoon, and that's going to put us a little bit ahead. And they're probably not going to be able to pass us on the straight following that. But they're going to close us down. And then we're slow through the chicane. So I would think by the time we're exiting the chicane, we're going to have a lot of guys in faster cars breathing down our necks, and then they're going to get DRS. You know, like say when Verstappen comes through, he's going to get DRS on the start-finish straight, and a lot of cars are going to make their moves on us there. We're going to be faster through that next sector of the track, but back-to-back straights with a slow chicane in between, it's probably going to be a bit challenging for us in this race. Holding position, defending. We'll see if that's actually the case, but otherwise we should have fairly good speed. And as the field stretches out in the early laps, I think our best friend in this race is a clean race. VSC would be okay, but full safety cars could be a real problem for us. The field stretching gives us our best chance at points in this one.
It's time for the final touches here on the grid ahead of today's race.
Qualifying went well for Williams, as attested by their strong position on the grid. Now it's all about finding that edge for the race itself. Haas gave a solid performance in qualifying, and they'll be happy enough with their grid position here. Let's see if they can make it work for them. And the clouds today look very ominous, which means that teams may have to contend with rain at some point during the race.
The Suzuka circuit is primed and ready to see Formula One's finest battle it out.
There's a plan for the start of the race. I'm looking at the one-stop strategy. Soft to medium track position is going to be really important here. So we're going to try to stay out there and keep these tires alive as long as we can. They will fall off the cliff on this strategy, but we're good on tire use, both drivers, and I do think we'll be able to do some pushing with them. But overall, that one-stopper should really save us a lot of time, as I do believe most of the field is going to end up going for a two-stopper. We could gain quite a bit of time, especially if we have that strong track position and can go with the one-stop strategy. But that does mean we've got to go a little conservative in a couple areas. One, the only change I'm making is driver options. We're going to attack and push off the bat, but we're going to go neutral on the ERS to conserve that as we go along and try to use it maybe to defend against certain cars but not others. But starting from P5, P6 is going to be tremendous. Let's see how long we can hang on to this. Can we get ourselves into the points? Can we get both drivers into the points for the first time?
It's lights out, and away we go.
All right, race underway. Let's see if we can hold position. That's the biggest thing for me early on. It does look like a McLaren and a Red Bull already squeezing past Pourchaire. Pourchaire gets to the inside to hold off Verstappen for now. Verstappen tucks in, so that's down one position, and we're actually already challenging. We lost two, but we've got one of those back, and he is challenging Ricardo. Challenging Ricardo, so that's good at least. And Albon, well in position here early on. Albon, from where he's at, let's go aggressive. We've got to make these tires last.
Can't afford to drop back.
So we can drop back that little bit there. But we'll push through at least this first lap as things are really, really tight with the fuel load for that little bit longer. Pourchaire putting the McLaren under pressure, but I don't think we're necessarily in the greatest position to overtake him at all. So we'll start to back off there as well. These tires last. See how long we can hold off Verstappen behind. So Verstappen did not drop back far, but he did drop back behind us. And you can see already coming out of Spoon, the advantage he has on us in pace makes it look like he might get on by here. And it's okay. My race is not with Verstappen. He didn't drop back to the back of the grid. Therefore, the two fastest cars are on track behind us. Sainz as well. So I think at some point those three are going to make their way through the grid. But can we hold off others? For now, without DRS anyway, we've been able to hold off even Verstappen, as DRS is now enabled. So this next lap, not this lap, but this next lap, he'll have that DRS advantage on us. We'll have DRS too, with the McLaren not that far in front, but Albon dropping back. Hamilton so far just 2/10 behind Leclerc at the race lead. Russell, a little more than a second behind though. We'll see how that plays out. Again, it's only that one DRS though, but for us, Verstappen, that'll be enough for him. Sonoda just over a second behind. This is good for us because otherwise Albon is the only one who is holding up a train, and we're already being challenged by Verstappen. He is so close to us. Not able to get us yet. But again, I think with DRS, it might be enough. We'll have DRS too. Just not sure. Not sure we'll hold him off terribly long here. For Ricardo, is DRS enough? No, it's not. It's not enough for Verstappen either. Wow. Porsche, that brings him right up. But that also, closing those four up, opens the gap to Sonoda, who was a little over a second behind, is now 1.7 down. So that would be fantastic if Albon can outpace Sonoda for a little while. We could have a four-car train that eventually would probably be led by Verstappen, and if possible, we might be able to keep up with him for a little while and drive even further away from the third train, as we're in the second train. Hamilton has passed Leclerc to lead the first train. Vettel and Stroll has lost Sonoda, so that's the fifth train. So we are train number 2. Sonoda heads up train number 3. Vettel heads up train number 4. Dropping that group even further behind. If we can get away from Sonoda a bit, that would be fantastic for our race overall. So for now, I want to continue pushing on. Porsche, though, at some point here, really needs to back off. Let's go ahead and back off now on that fuel. That is going to make us a little more vulnerable to Verstappen. I'm not worried about Verstappen getting past us, though, except the race is not with him. Our race is to try to stay with him, stay with Ricardo, drive away from Sonoda a bit. But right now, it's Albon's pace that's setting the tempo here. So for Porsche, closing up, not as hard. For Albon, though, what do we do? What do we do? I think we're going to have to back off here for a little while and just keep an eye on the gap to Sonoda.
Copy.
Okay, and Aston Martin has run wide and comes back on track and wipes out Bottas. So there you go, it's Stroll. Stroll has wiped out Bottas. Let's hope Bottas does not get a penalty, as that is clearly not his fault. Stroll unsafely rejoining the track after running wide. It's just a VSC. Let's see, does anyone hit? Let's look at the front of the field and see if anyone peels off as they come up here on the final chicane. We'll watch from Hamilton. You can see Leclerc and Hamilton both from here. And neither peel off into pit road. What about Alonso and Russell? Neither of them peeling off. Ricardo? He does not peel off. Verstappen does not peel off. Back off, go standard for a little bit, save those tires. Remember, we do need to conserve tires. How we do it on that tire wear, we're doing okay. We're doing okay on that tire wear, so good so far. Going standard for a little bit through here will help. So currently we run P6, P7. VSC ending soon. Up.
Push hard. Happy to push hard.
Fuel, much better now.
VSC is ending.
But as we're in this position, as long as we can hang on to Ricardo, we do not need to burn extra fuel. We've got the DRS train. This is an ideal scenario for us. Yes, I mean, it's nice to be ahead of Ricardo, but his pace is better than mine, and we can save fuel for later on in the race. Porsche struggling to keep up at the moment. Needs to push a little bit harder.
Register lift and co.
Out to over a second. He's vulnerable to Verstappen at the moment. Side by side. Looks like Verstappen's going to complete the overtake before the chicane. He does. He does. So go ahead and drop to balanced. We knew he was going to get around eventually. He took Verstappen in the fastest car 8 laps, 8 full laps to get past Porsche. Gotta push on again though. Verstappen closes up so fast on Albon that the gap that Porsche had has nearly gone back out to a second. For now, anyway, Verstappen's not going to gain any further, so that's should allow Porsche with just a little bit of push to get back in within that DRS trade. Albon, meanwhile, is just half a second down on Ricciardo, so we're okay. All right, we've closed that back down, so we're okay. We'll back off. And let's speed things up for a little while. We've got a long ways to go yet before we are set to pit. So Bottas had to take an extra pit stop with the damage he took from Stroll. Stroll does not pick up a penalty. Verstappen has gone around Albon.
DRS enabled.
Is it just me, or did we lose the... When Albon... When Verstappen passed us, by the way, he flew past Ricciardo, same lap, but we lost the interval. So just like that, we are more than a second behind those two. They're going to drive away from us, so we now sit P7, P8. We've got 1.8 on Sonoda, but we're not going to get DRS help anymore. Not as big of a help here at this track, so let's see if we can hold them off. Russell into the pits. Sonoda is pitting, so that was his in-lap. That was his in-lap. 2-stopper, and we were ahead of him already. This is good. This could be really good if we pull off this 1-stopper. We're going to have some pretty significant time gains over a lot of drivers in the field. We are back into P5 and P6 as Alonso and Verstappen both head into the pits. And we're P3 and P4 now at the moment here on lap 17. Still a long ways off from when we are planning to pit. Ricciardo has driven away from us, but not by a lot, 3.5 seconds. He has not pit yet, which means maybe he is, like us, choosing to do the 1-stopper, in which case, no! Ricciardo pits! Ricciardo pits, so he is going for the 2-stopper, and he only pulled away by 3.5 seconds, meaning ultimately what he is going to have to gain later on is, at least 20 more seconds with the extra stop that he is planning to make. Now, our pace is going to slowly drop off, so that 3.5 second advantage would ultimately grow. And Leclerc into the pits. Leclerc is into the pits. Perez unable to make a pass, and Albon, Leclerc comes out ahead of us. So Leclerc keeps the race lead. He's gained that much time. For a second, I thought we might be, for the second time, inheriting a race lead. But no, we do not. It is P2 for Alexander Albon, P3 for Porsche. Perez has yet to pit. Hamilton already has. He is caught behind our train. Hamilton's going to lose a ton of time being behind us, where Leclerc is ahead. So Leclerc will eventually drive away from us. For now, we may get the benefit of DRS coming through the chicane, but was the detection zone? No, the detection zone is after the chicane. So that did not benefit us. We are going to come out. Well, we're back within a second, even without the DRS. But I just don't think we're going to hold it. Almost into that pit window. Checking in on the field now, those that have not stopped. Norris, Perez, and my 2 cars, the only ones that look to be doing the 1-stopper. Everybody else looking to do the 2-stopper. For Perez, we're holding him up for now, but you know eventually he will outpace us and drive away from us. But Norris, we may hold off, and a lot of these 2-stoppers, you could beat him. Leclerc, clearly not. He's already ahead of us with only 1 more stop to do, so that's not happening. Okay, now our problem though is we cannot double stack this tight to each other, so somebody's going to have to do an extra lap or stop a lap early. We've got 2 laps till we're supposed to stop, and we're coming right up on that 30% here pretty soon, so that's going to be iffy. I kind of want Pourchaire to get a chance to run on his own a little bit, as you know, the fuel for him is good. Albon is going to have to pit here maybe a lap early, as we're coming up on that 31% now, but the mediums, right? The mediums are coming. We're going to start to lose pace as we go below 30% here, so we're about to fall off that cliff. We may see ourselves get passed by 2 or 3 of those guys just behind us that we are holding up. Oh, Albon into the wall.
We can take a look now. Now watch this. Here's the moment involving Albon.
I know tire wear was low. We were pushing on.
They won't have been expecting that.
Big mistake there. Same place. This is our weak area.
The team are devastated.
Really disappointed that Albon couldn't keep it together to get. He's on his in lap. He's on his in lap. He does continue on though, and he's still P9, but it's clearly time for him to pit. So. We now have a 6-second gap between Pourchaire and Albon. We have a 6-second gap between Pourchaire and Albon. Therefore, we are going to double stack. Pourchaire going first now. It is 1 lap early, but the tire wear is such that we need to make it happen, and I worry about the state of the tires. Through the chicane and into the pits, and he is joined by Perez, Norris, and Albon, all into the pits. Will we be ahead of them? No. Their pit stop was faster. Pourchaire ends up stopping for 3 additional seconds, and that hurts. That hurts. We come out behind both of them. Their pit stop was that much faster than us. Oh, that is so unfortunate that we lost, what, 3-4 additional seconds there? As we would have been ahead of Tsunoda still. We would have been ahead of Norris still. I mean, we're talking about, it would have been a gap between Gasly and Norris. Wow, terrible luck on that. Absolutely just terrible luck. But 1 stopper, and we still have a lot of guys around us that are going to be stopping yet again. I mean, the Albon thing is his own doing / my own doing. I mean, we told him to push when tire wear was low, but you're going to use what tires you can, right? So that's still his mistake. At just over a second behind, Pourchaire may. Sainz is not the pace setter of this group ahead. It's Norris. So we might be able to get within that 1 second and get that DRS and close up on those guys with Pourchaire. So we're going to use a little bit of overtake. We're going to push on a little bit longer and be a little aggressive and see if we can't get a little gain and get in there. But I do think we've done enough. We are up in there, so yeah, back to neutral. We used up, you know, a good third of our battery for that, but we've made it within a second. We are going to get DRS, so Porsche in P12 back into a slightly better state. Meanwhile, Albon's pace is faster than Schumacher. So Schumacher, who heads up the train of the back midfield, now has Albon at the back end of it. So we have Schumacher, we have Guan Yu Zhou, and Magnussen just ahead of us, assuming that all or most of them will pit twice, because I think it was, what, Norris, ourselves, and Perez were the only ones doing the one-stopper today. So those guys... Oh, no. Oh, poor Cher.
Let's see what happened there.
That's the fourth time this race weekend that this same corner has resulted in
that crash is terrible news
us
for
putting
the
it
team.
in the wall there. The one hard quarter for our
And
team
that
has
was
been
a bitter blow for the team,
one that they
and
just
it
can't
may have
handle.
really hurt their overall chances.
But Porsche, P13, he comes out just behind Ocon. He didn't lose a lot of time there. He really didn't lose. He's only lost about 5 seconds. And how bad does that wing look? But what is Porsche's pace? Now, both drivers have made a mistake, so it's, you know, it would have been nice if Albon had made a mistake. Porsche would still be in the running for points. I think both drivers making a big mistake is going to be very costly. We lost a full second there. That was pretty costly, just going right through there. So don't think our pace is going to be good enough to stay out. I do think next lap we're going to have to pit, but taking time to sort that out is worth it. We lost another half second around there. Yeah, another half second. That's 2 seconds we've lost already just in the last 4 or 5 turns. So no, pace is not good enough. Porsche has to pit. Porsche comes out in P17, by the way. So Porsche running in P17. Albon up into P10 as we are getting those second pit stops from guys. So he does still have a chance. He's got a huge gap in front of him, though. So a big gap forward. And Guan Yu Zhou right behind him, who has not pit yet. But here comes the next round of pit stops. And that is Albon up into P9, just behind Ricciardo. We were ahead of Ricciardo, but the mistake from Albon has put us, Ricciardo, with 2 stops. Right there, we were, 3 seconds off from him, but then Albon's big mistake has given Ricciardo enough that he's ahead of us. But we are running P9. Sainz gets by to P10. We have 10 laps to go in this race. I kept him on attack for a long time. I had no idea I had him on attack. I don't think we can get away with this being a one-stopper for Albon. He's already at 35%. So with 8 laps to go, Gasly's already gone by. 7 laps to go. So out of the points after the mistake from both drivers and a mistake from me on keeping Albon on push. But of course that did give him better pace for a while, which we needed. But now it's really hurting us. We're already 2.5 back of Gasly. So Gasly driving away from us. We are 3 seconds ahead of Ocon as we try to at least hang on for P11. But Porsche close to the Haas cars, but he won't actually compete with him. Remember, he's ended up turning this into a 2-stopper. We are way ahead of the Aston Martins at least. Bottas well off the back. Albon could drop as low as P13, but I think he'll hang on otherwise. But we have a 14-second advantage over Schumacher, so Albon will finish P13 as long as he does not make another mistake. And meanwhile, Porsche has gotten around Magnussen, so let's focus on what he can do. Porsche definitely has the pace to potentially beat them, but he only has 1 lap to do so. And in ERS, that's not looking great. An attempted overtake that's already failed. And he's on mediums when they're on softs, just ahead of him. That's Guan Yu Zhou probably struggling. That's P13, P16. Still not a terrible race in terms of where the team expects us to be. Easily crushing Aston Martin, also beating Haas today, beating Guan Yu Zhou, and actually the Alfa Romeos as well. So as a team, that was an excellent result. We beat 3 teams today. I expected more. And if we didn't have the mistakes, one from each driver and one from myself, we absolutely finish higher. Absolutely finish higher. But from 10th, we couldn't pit Albon. And that was, we had to keep him out there and see what kind of pace he could do. And clearly backing off in this car is bad for your pace. Really bad for your pace. But also tire wear, bad for your pace as well. That's going to do it for this episode, though. I'm Decathlon Gamer. Like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you next time. Have a good one. Be safe out there. Bye for now.